So we just cut that right there because he went on for several minutes, Admiral Kirby, about that one point, which allowed him to skirt the issue of beg to differ. Fox News contributor and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in focus now, and great to have you. When you hear the White House senior staff say things like, we beg to differ, he's doing so much, what is President Biden doing to handle the threats with China? Is it a secret? Maybe we don't know.
Well, Harris, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you again. Well, here's what we do know. It's insufficient. It hasn't delivered for the American people, right? So whatever actions he may have taken, right? He says, oh, we're doing all this on inflation. We've got raging inflation. He said, we did things right in Afghanistan. We had 13 Americans killed, and we left Americans behind. And now you have a Chinese Communist Party who is clearly testing him. And he said, no, we can't challenge them by even allowing a member of Congress to travel to an independent sovereign nation. Make no mistake about it. Harris, they see weakness, they see inaction, and the tyrants, the bad guys in the world, will try to drive a truck to that. And that's bad for Americans all across our country. It'll be bad for jobs, it'll be bad for our economy, and it'll be really dangerous if we have to put our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in harm's way to protect something that we could have deterred in the first instance.
Talk to me about where Speaker Nancy Pelosi is going now. I mean, these are not the first times that we've seen high-ranking officials among, Americans go there. I mean, heck, Dennis Rodman went to the peninsula, the Korean peninsula. However, the timing of it is interesting. And what it says about this president to have her over there just hop-skipping wherever she wants to go.
Yeah, the irony is that they're from the same party, right? We've seen this before where you see a Republican Congress or a Democrat Congress and a president of the opposite party, and they'd have a little tension in their diplomatic outreach. These are co-conspirators. These are people who've been working together an awfully long time, and they are failing to do the things that are to keep us safe. For 4 years, Harris, we were successful. We didn't get everything right, but we were successful at deterring the bad guys from putting Americans at risk, whether it was the strike we took on Qasem Soleimani and pushed back against the Iranians, or the work that we did when President Trump actually visited with Chairman Kim 3 times in Hanoi and Singapore, and then again at the DMZ where the speaker is today. We delivered good outcomes. This administration just seems on its back foot. It seems defensive. It seems fearful. We're the most powerful nation in the world. We ought to act like that, and we ought to make clear that there will be real costs if they act in ways that are inconsistent with protecting and creating prosperity, protecting Americans and keeping prosperity here at home.
Well, and I think that's a gap that we don't have that we had with former presidents, particularly the last one, President Trump. We knew what those deterrents were going to look like. He talked a lot about tariffs. He talked tough, and then he followed up with it. We don't know what's on the bill for this president. We just know beg to differ from Admiral Kirby. Your last quick thought, we'll move to the next.
Yeah, you nailed it. Beg to differ is something that the leader Xi Jinping in China will hear, and he'll say, yeah, I beg to differ too. Here, I'm going to launch some more missiles in and around Taiwan. Your point's exactly right. We didn't defend everything everywhere. We defended the things that matter. And when we drew a line, we lived up to the commitment that we'd made. That's the most important thing. Reagan knew it with peace through strength. We executed with our idea of putting the American people first in everything that we did.
Well, there are some new concerns today, new questions about al-Qaeda's presence in Afghanistan after our military took out their top terrorist, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in an upscale Kabul neighborhood not far from the presidential palace. We all may recall that in August last year, President Biden downplayed al-Qaeda's presence after that debacle of a way and deadly way for our troops that he pulled out of Afghanistan. Let's watch together.
What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone? We went to Afghanistan for the express purpose of getting rid of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, as well as getting Osama bin Laden, and we did.
Now, the Taliban claims it was unaware al-Zawahiri was in Afghanistan at all before the U.S. drone strike that took him out. This as we approach 1 year since that disastrous U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Secretary, I'm just wondering, I guess it's believable they wouldn't know because it is such a chaotic mess over there that we left behind. But they aren't the only terrorists on the ground. We sure do know that there are thousands of ISIS-K.
Yeah. Harris, I actually don't buy the story. He apparently was staying at the home of a senior fellow named Siraj Haqqani, who's deeply connected to the Taliban. Maybe not every Taliban knucklehead knew, but the Taliban senior leadership were aware that Zawahiri was in and around it. And I do want to take a moment to tell my former colleagues at the intelligence agencies, well done. This was a decades-long effort to find Zawahiri and go after him. They did really good work, important work. The vengeance that we struck for the losses of 9/11 was righteous, and I'm really proud of all that they did, before me, during my time, and then after. It does send another note, though. This guy was in Kabul. You talked about it being an upscale neighborhood. Harris, it's not particularly upscale by American standards, but he was in the center city. And for us to do this kind of strike outside of Kabul is going to prove more difficult. And when I hear President Biden talk about the weakness of Al-Qaeda, when I talk about the weakness of Al-Qaeda, it reminds me of when President Obama talked about ISIS as the JV team. We can all remember that. And then ISIS took over a piece of territory the size of Great Britain and started cutting heads off people all across the Middle East. These are serious terrorists. We need to maintain our focus. It's entirely possible for us to deliver good outcomes all across the world to keep people safe. But if you joke and laugh and pretend it's going to go away, the bad guys will come chase us, and we'll have a bad day here in the United States one day. We cannot let that happen.
You know, before I let you go, as we talk, you talked about the strategy, the strategic nature of you can't hit everything, but you have to go for what's most important. What keeps you up at night right now?
Yeah, it's the Chinese Communist Party that keeps me up at night. They're the one power that has the capacity to change the way our kids and grandkids live their lives here in the United States of America. Harris, they're inside the gates. They're working in our universities and research institutions. They're stealing jobs from millions of Americans all across the country. This is what we're going to have to confront to make sure America gets another 250 great years. I'm convinced we will, but the Biden administration has not shown sufficient resolve or strategic thinking in how to confront them appropriately. We had a lot of work to do when we left as well, Harris. This is an American mission, not a Republican or Democrat mission, but an American one.
Mike Pompeo in focus on this Friday. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Harris.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.